showing that this is what the board went through the walkthrough is that lower level space. The board went and did a walkthrough behind the discussion. We visually saw that. So this is the official change order with the amounts to address that space. If there's further questions, you can ask them. But I also provided a change order balance as of November 7th, 2026. So if there's any questions on what's in our change order account, that's reflected on this. That does include the numbers off to the end. The totals does include if the board would approve these 3 change orders to address that load question.
Dr. Berryman, from a programmatic standpoint, would you just give a quick synopsis of what this will do for us in the graphic arts area?
So that area that you saw was pretty much gutted, and it needs to be turned into 2 separate classrooms, one for the graphic arts program, which includes like some of the digital media, photography, things of that nature. And then the other area that you saw, if you're standing in the classroom facing the doorway out to the left, it would be for the middle school design and build course that Mr. Chad Becker currently teaches, which leads into some of the courses that in the high school through the design, the workshops, the CAD program. So that would be for 2 different classrooms, also a little bit of storage, and a small room for taking photographs.
Quick question. Was there a little bit of a money allotted discrepancy about, I thought it was a little bit less than that cost that's for bringing cross sports tonight, but maybe not. Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
It was, it's actually higher to begin with, and Victor and Gil's haggling, they got it down to what you see today.
And this is kind of material, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that is correct. It is based off of
I'll say that Gil asked them to sharpen their pencil a little bit.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Tom, I have huge issues with every one of these, and I'm going to tell you why. It appears to me that every one of these, especially this ECI, the first one, but I went through every one of them, I looked at the dates. It appears that this has been started pretty much around March of this year. Because I have an invoice sitting right here that's dated 3/12/2025, due date 4/30/2025, and a lot of these invoices I'm seeing on all 3 of these are dated back in the 5th month, 6th month. And here's my problem with that. Let me explain my big, huge problem. We were just told about this on October 20th when we were taken over there and shown this. This looks to me like it's been planned. Phase 3 came and it was planned.
You refer to which page?
Well, I'm looking right at the FD&M statement here, invoice, number 247072828-00. It says invoice date 3/12/2025, due date 4/30/2025, and it's in the amount of $7,685. All ECI.
On the page?
It would be page 4, I'm sorry. And there's a lot, almost every one of these is old. Well, not that old, but not around October.
Real quick, just to add to that, that was a space that was going to be worked on initially anyway. What you showed us was an adjustment to better utilize that area. So there is going to be some invoices that they probably had already. Is that correct?
Correct, because that we did authorize some change order work within the existing classroom because that space needed to be addressed. Upon addressing that, we found out there's some additional spaces to be reconstructed, which then funneled into this scope of change order. Otherwise, the change order would have been below the threshold, and the superintendent could have just addressed it at the time. It grew upon exploration, for lack of a better term, into that space and figuring out how that space is going to be utilized. The grant also played a part into that because originally the whole boiler system, HVAC system was right underneath there. When that was removed, due to the grant work, that also exposed some areas for expansion.
So it was hidden stuff until they got into it. Then when they got into it, then more was revealed, more ceiling came down, there was more evidence, and then all of a sudden it changed the scenario on the project.
I would say that room has been as it sits for, I can't tell you how long. It's been for a long time, it's been exposed.
I do remember also sharing that they had taken out heating system from in there too, so that had to be removed and the walls taken down to get that out. So that area has just, throughout the project, the trench that had, that is part of the old, so the trench that had to be dug through there, went right through the classroom, so it went through the casing, which that woodwork in there was very old. And then taking out that equipment, so it has just, I mean, you guys saw the state of it, so.
So was that already paid to the
No, they have not billed us for that.
page 4 and page 5?
They're billing us for time and materials. They have invoices for the material they've already conducted within the work. We have yet to pay them as part of that.
Have they done the work yet?
No work's been done there. I mean, other than removing.
Just what they needed to get to
Yeah.
where it is today.
Yeah.
Right. So any change order work that would have been done and previously approved would be under a different change order in those buildings. Then they would have either been board approved or superintendent approved if they were all. So none of the, you guys can say, none of the work that is in the scope of these change orders has been done under the board.
This has been a discussion for quite some time. The level of involvement of those spaces. It's been on pause for a year.
Well, one of the biggest things that concerns me, is that it appears that we're spending down the contingency fund, knowing that we're at the end of the project, but we're not returning that money back to the general fund. So the taxpayers aren't going to have the ability to have a tax relief should we run into a pickle when it comes to our finances. I'm a bit concerned that some of these projects I'm seeing that we're doing weren't in the original scope. And not only weren't they in the original scope, they could have been added in 2023 when the project was done because they knew, and I was told that they were going to tear that floor out. Now you're coming back to this board, not the original board, and saying, hey, we want you guys to finance this, we want you guys to finance that. And I find that a bit disingenuous because I just don't believe this board, especially me, should be responsible for spending all this extra money that they knew they couldn't afford when they did the original project. That's my point. That is my absolute point on this. We are the ones filling in the blanks, and we're using taxpayer money to do it. And I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with it at all. Why wasn't it done when the original project was done? They knew they were tearing that floor out. They knew it. And now you come back to me and this board and say, hey, we want to do this, and this, and we're going to spend the money down. And I find that, I just don't like how that's working out. I don't like it.
I will say that we can't, unfortunately, we haven't been stuck in any decisions from previous boards. However, I mean, you went on that walkthrough, we were all there together. I don't know, I mean, are you saying you think we can leave that room as it was when we were looking at it?
I think at this point right now, with the money the way it is in this district, we got to stop spending money.
Well,
We just do.
that room was incomplete.
Or we're going to be going to the taxpayers next year, and no offense, and saying, hey, we need more money. We can't keep doing that.
I understand your point. I think everyone is fiscally conservative and responsible on the board. This is money that has been set aside for these types of purposes, and it would be a lot more expensive to try to make renovations in such a room later than to do it here. And I think that we've tried to go through the proper process of board approval and all of those.
I would also add that this space, and I'll say, it's unanticipated what that space is going to involve. I think the way it grew, and where it's at, is just a product of us planning, and unfortunately, part of the planning, it took us 2-3 years to even get to the building project, and then it took us almost a year to design this little space, figure out strategically how we're going to address it, what it's going to be used for. So it wasn't a product of it's coming in late. It's just a product of it took us this long to get an idea and a cost and effort put in to get to this fund. Now, to create the contingency or change order fund is its exact purpose for stuff that was unforeseen, that would better the project, and it's the best time to do it.
And this space is for CPE, for medical education.
No offense, Tom, but unforeseen. How did you not know when you tore a floor out out that you were gonna have to redo the whole room. It's not unforeseen. That should have been in the original project.
would
I
say
saw the room.
From the design, I think that design morphed 4 or 5 times over the course of that. At one point, it was the esports lab. At one point, it was photography. It morphed all different which ways until we came to a point where we moved to the middle school coming in and we needed to find a space. And that was the prime space that we designed around. And that took 4 or 5 months to work with contractors to get to the point where we're at today. I mean, somebody else can correct me, but I'm pretty sure that's the summarized version of that.
Yes, but also to your point, Mr. Sullivan, yes, we knew that trench was being dug through there. What I don't think they anticipated was the amount of, this is not like layman's, this is layman's terms, like rot and debris and stuff that was gonna go through there. And then having to take out, again, that, I wish you guys could have seen the cabinetry and stuff that was in there before. Just how old and in bad shape it was. So then when they're doing that trench, they started removing part of that. And then they realized the damage that was in that room. And then to Tom's point, to Mr. Shoemaker's point, that's when it started to be like, there was a lot more damage in that room than was foreseen or was anticipated when we were going in. It was not anticipated that that room would be gutted in the way that you guys saw it initially.
But it was told to me, all the board members, that if you do the original project as it was supposed to be done, that room was going to be redone that one room was going to be redone in the drywall. You already had that plan. This piece that we're talking about is extra. This is not the original project. If you redid that one art room, or excuse me,
Just the wall.
then we would be back to square one. That was actually, as you said, part of the original project, but now we're adding that L shape, which is adding $207,000 to the cost. And the problem I have with that is it's way past the scope of what we originally anticipated.
Ms. Bayless, you have a question?
Kind of a comment, I guess, concern, maybe, I guess, if somebody wants. So what I think we're talking about here is that the area we're talking about was not part of the original scope of work. And it wasn't part of the add-on scope of work. So basically that would be the list of add alternates. It wasn't on the list of add alternates. And I don't believe it was on part of the original scope of work. Now, that being said, I understand in construction things happen and going through renovations, remodeling, etc. You come across things that you didn't know were there, unexpected additional challenges. I get that. But this whole thing started with a grant of 75%, 25%, that we were hoping to get 75% that would cover our costs, and we would only have to pay 25%. Then that changed, 85-15, I apologize, 85-15, that changed to 25, okay, 75-25, and changed to 85-15. Either way, the bottom line is, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we only had $1 million, right? We only had $1 million for both the high school project, high school middle school project, and the elementary project. So,
If I can, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you say correct. If I can make a correction. This, I think what you're referring to is the lower level HVAC upgrades that were part of that grant that we submitted. This is a separate, this is totally separate, this individual room and the renovations that they want to make to this room as part of the project as a change. So this is unrelated to the grant.
so am I correct in saying that it was not part of the original project and it was not on the list of add alternates? Is that correct?
I can't speak to whether it was on the alternates.
Would it be
But
correct?
I would say that it would not be correct if it's a change order, it was not the original project. Correct.
Yes.
Was it also not on the list of add alternates?
Correct.
Okay, so if that's correct, then this is a whole new phase of work. And this would then be considered an expansion of the scope of work originally designed or designated to be done. Okay? That being said, that money shouldn't come from a contingency fund. A contingency fund is specifically for, an example, your med ed. Like when we were told that med ed was gonna cost us, what, 100,000? Something like that, roughly?
250,000.
Sorry, originally it was 250?
Originally it was like 50.
I thought it was 100, but okay, we'll go with
We had
50.
50 budgeted, it was originally
Okay.
300,000.
And then it came in as 300, right, like afterwards. Then they said, oh, no, it's gonna be 300,000. So in a situation of that case, that's exactly what, because we have no control over med ed, unfortunately. That's a situation where your contingent fund would be used just for that, something that you have no control over, something that comes back in way over budget. But there's nothing we can do. We need electricity in that building. So yet we have no control over med ed. But something like this, we have more control over. Now, do I think we need some assistance in this particular room? I would agree. I was there, I saw it. I think we need some assistance in this. But that being said, this is a lot of money we're talking about now. A lot of money. And here's the problem. It's not that I'm objecting to paying for something that's gonna help the students, but we're doing that again. And I'm not even sure where we stand for our actual budget. Sorry. For our actual budget, for the construction. We're gonna end up using almost, if not, I don't know, maybe all of the contingency fund. I would have liked to see quite a bit of that contingency fund, whatever we could have managed to save in there, go back into the general fund so that we wouldn't, hopefully we wouldn't have to raise that. Anyway, that's just my concern. Thank you for listening.
Absolutely. Anything else? All right, next item.
Okay. F, regarding contract with Labor Associates Construction for the 1990 window replacement. Any comments to speak on that?
So Gordian is a cooperative purchasing, so that is some vendors are on there we get to select. We selected Labor Associates. They're currently within the project, currently, so they're familiar with the space. But this would be, like I said before, we're looking to do the grant work in stages. The 1990s windows was the most escalated to do to their working in the 1990 section. So within this would be part of the school facility grant we just recently talked about. So this contract would then facilitate them to work on that 1990 windows on execution.
Other questions, thoughts? Okay, G, 1 through 7.
Dr. Moyer,
Yes, sir.
I just sent off an email to you requesting to review the $26,351.43 of solicitor bills for this month. 3,000 over mine
Yeah, sure.
from the CEO.
Okay.
I think that was multiple ones, is that correct?
Two.
Any other comments, questions, general punch, or the payment of invoices?
I would actually like to see them. I've never seen them at all.
Yes, absolutely. Please send an email to Dr. Moyer, and they will get set up time to review those.
Okay.
Anything else?
Am I correct, there's no capital project checks at all?
Would not be for this time. They generally happen over the summer and trickle in throughout the year, so they're very sporadic. At this point in time, we probably have none at this point until this project that we put through last month will happen this spring to summer. I will make a note that there will be more on there. You see, we'll designate them as under construction, but they will be in funds, so they're not showing capital projects. So most of the checks you'll see will be construction related. I'll let you know that ahead of time, that the construction of your capital projects is not given for which ones are which.
And quick question, on Saxon installment bill, you had description of purchase ATT.
It most likely is an abbreviation of the term.
Okay.
Which is, you can see on the second one, that's the term, that would be my assumption.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes my, yes, any more questions? Nothing else? Okay. All right, personnel, we'll make this pretty expeditious here. Item A is a professional development sabbatical request that the staff member is entitled to under the collective bargaining agreement. If there's any questions about that, then take place in the executive session. Item B is the every year winter coaches list approval. You'll see there's some vacancies, but we're going to have next week, because we're waiting on some clearances, there will most likely be the coaches there to fill those vacancies on a different rate. Item C through F are the typical personnel hires, resignations, volunteers, and everything in between that we do every month. Are there any questions there? Item G is a FBLA state trip that happens every year pretty much because FBLA typically always has a state officer. We have for a long time running, so this is a overnight trip that happens pretty much every year. Any questions on that? On to curriculum, co-curriculum policy. Item A, ratification of the student disciplinary hearing. Any discussion related to that will have to take place in executive session. Okay, here we need to go back to that. Item B is approval of the final reading of the policies that are listed there.